right now, we start our conversation with the Tshwane Mayor, Dr. Nasiphi Moya. This is part of the check-in that we are doing with several mayors. Remember, we started with the Ekurhuleni Mayor, Nkosing Pile Xagaza. We've done this series before. I think the last time we did it was actually before the elections. And that's why then the voices you have now and the faces are different. But we try do this as often as we can because we want to have the mayors come so that they can update us about their priority areas. But we want them to come so that you can raise issues in your metro. So it's an opportunity as a citizen of their metro to get an update on service delivery issues or some issues that may be of interest to you. So as always, I want to encourage you to give us a call on 011-883-0702. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note as well on 072-702-1702 if you want to engage with the mayor, if you've got a question or you've got an input. Mayor, thank you so much for coming through in this freezing temperatures. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to your listeners at home. Thank you for having me. It's the first time I'm here.
Is it the first time at this building? Even
Not the building. I've been with CD next
at
door.
EWN. Oh,
yes,
okay.
This is the first time here.
Here on this side of the studio. Yes. Well, thank you so much for making time for us. I really appreciate it. I want us to just start off with just, before we get into priority areas and service delivery updates, how has it been for you?
The 7 months has been...
feels like 2 years.
Jeez, man, 10 years, more like 10 years. I feel like I've added 10 years to my life. It's been good. Good in a sense that obviously we were not expecting smooth sailing in the position and also in the coalition. But it's been challenging, but also very rewarding. Hey, I think we've taken decisions that have made us to go home before you go to bed. You're like, you know what, I've been done badly, this day or this week. But personally, it's been it's been an eye opener. Leading people is not easy, man. Like it's not. Where you have to think about people you don't even know. It's not easy. Leading is not. And for someone like me, I'm very new here. I only started becoming a public rep last year, January.
Yeah. So
I'm still very much new in the space. And I always admire when I look at seasoned politicians or political leaders and how they do things. I'm like, oh, I admire that. But personally, it's been rewarding. But in terms of just the Tshwane environment, I think I got to learn South Africa from a different perspective.
And speaking of learning, what are the biggest issues from your learning journey that are facing the city of Tshwane, the metro of Tshwane? What are the big issues? And I asked it in that way because I imagine that's what then informs your priority areas.
Yes.
So you respond to those issues.
I think it's the deviation from basics of governance. I think for me, you say big issues, but it's not the big issues that bother me a lot. It's the basics. So I studied politics, political science, public administration, public policy. So I came as a student, or I come as a student. That's my understanding of government, right? And you just, the other day, for instance, my colleague says, the reason why we have service delivery war room, because someone is not doing their job. We're not supposed to be doing this. And that was a moment of reflection for me and say, we can't be proud of doing the things that we are doing because it means that we have deviated from basics of governance. And therefore, whatever big problem you are dealing with is because there was a basic principle that was neglected. And even the AG findings will tell you the root causes, for instance. There's one that bothers me the most. There are no SOPs in Tshwane. That was one of the root causes in the 23-24 financial year. The record management is just non-existent. And for me, in Tshwane, it's not even the big issues. And to a certain extent, it's not even the political instability. Is just the deviation from basic principles of governance by the administration as well.
Yeah.
So then the question is then the learning, where is the learning in that process, is then to say, how do you put it back? Or you go to default setting of governance to say, listen, an administrator must do their job and the manager must do their job. So basically that has been the learning for me, just to see how people even resist the most obvious things that need to happen.
Is the metro capacitated though? So does it have people with capacity to deliver on that? Because as you say, the AGs, said Tshwane was one of the biggest contributors in unauthorized expenditure with that 2.15 billion rand. And one of the questions she asked was whether the leadership in these metros included the type of people that are equal to the task. So when you look at governance, do you have capacity? Because maybe that is the problem. Because sometimes we think, people are just not doing their work, they're neglecting. But maybe they just don't have the capacity to deliver on those responsibilities. What's your assessment?
So my assessment is very much informed, because when I started, we then, as an executive mayor, we then received the AG findings, and I see all of the other, elements of the findings, but for me, the root causes of it. So one of the 5 root causes. So SOPs, record management. AG then says the management lacks a capacity and expertise to execute financial and performance responsibilities, right? And it's not that people don't have qualifications. They have qualifications, they have years of experience. What is then the problem? And again, the 4th root cause is that there's just no culture of consequence management or performance management. That when someone is doing good, there's no culture that recognizes that person. But when a person does wrong, the city just looks away, or the management looks away. There's no culture of consequence management. So when you talk about capacity, you must look at it from different perspectives to say, did they have tools of trade to do the work? And for the city, the reality is that, Clement, the critical vacancies in Tshwane are almost at 40%. So you've got people in Tshwane that work long hours because we have not filled vacancies all these years because there was no money. The city was bankrupt. And so while you want to punish the individuals, but also you need to strike a balance and say, did they have tools of trade? Did they, did you give them the conducive environment for these employees to work? But on the other hand, you have management that seems to have allowed people to do as they please. And that's and it's not us, it's the AG confirming that's the culture of the organization. And for me, we can talk about other sophisticated things, but if you can manage the workforce and fix the relationship with the political leadership for oversight purposes, if that relationship or that basics are not set, then the institution becomes too big to manage.
So how are you dealing with that then?
So we, first of all, the side of employees being capacitated. I think also just to deal with because everyone's demoralized because of the salary backlog. So we had to work very hard with labor just to get the commitment to say, listen, the city is not out to get the workforce. In fact, we want you to work. What do you need from us? They said we need PPE, we need tools of trade. And so there's been an investment in terms of there is money that is set aside. And we even say to labor, because labor is saying reduce contracted services, these employees can do the work that these service providers are doing. We have done that, and we went back to them and said, now here are the equipment, can you get your members to work? So that's on one side. On the other side is to deal with the reasons why the City of Tshwane collapsed in the first place. Who did what? So we have activated the Financial Disciplinary Board for financial misconduct. The city has over 1,000 investigations that there's no follow-up on. We have now invested more on the investigations that must be processed both by our MPEC committee as well as by the city manager in terms of disciplinary processes. We have seen more and more group heads now disciplining employees in their own departments, because for me, my biggest gripe with the management was that any group head that has not disciplined a person in 12 months, that group is not doing their job. That's just the nature of management.
Especially when there's a report that says, here's something that happened here.
Exactly,
that was wrong.
Exactly. But also on a weekly basis, we then, the service delivery war room I was telling you about, just to be proactive in identifying gaps in service delivery. And we've got limited resources, so we must be intentional about how we spread the resources. But also what is important, that consequence management committee where we look at who the disciplinary processes, the legal cases, and the investigations. But also, we need to make sure that the AG findings are responded to, not for the sake of AG or not for the sake of audit, but more for the sake of saying, are we fixing the root causes? And that's where I think as political executive we come in, because we don't look at the line by line item. We then have to hold them accountable on the root causes, make sure they've got the systems and the procedures in
place. Are there KPIs that are implemented? Because with the right or smart KPIs, you look at organizational capacity, you look at internal controls, customers get affected, the bottom line, the finances also improve as well. Are there KPIs in place?
Yes, there are. And people are being performance managed. Up until, I think, 3 months ago, we hadn't rolled out to everyone in the institution. Now it's being rolled out to everyone in this institution, to a level of a cleaner, an artisan, etc. But it hadn't gotten to that level. As a result, everyone gets their 13th check. There's no question about it. It wasn't linked. There are no bonuses. I mean, I can't remember the last time Tshwane offered performance-based bonuses, for instance, which is another culture that, we can talk about. But now there are KPIs. Of course, there's the institution-wide scorecard, the SDBIP. So that one, we've been trying to achieve our targets. I mean, the first 2 quarters, I think we're on average 58%. Third quarter, we're like, nah, it can't happen again. So I think we got 72% on the third quarter. And the whole point is that when you don't achieve the targets you've set for yourself, either you're setting bad targets or you just bad at your job. And so there are those reflections that even through the independent committee, the audit and performance committee, they do monitor and help us from an external point of view in terms of what is it that we need to do to perform. But I don't want not to say that the state of the city has affected the ability of the institution to deliver on its mandate.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want us to talk about the issues of water, electricity, even the state of the city. Because as you said, it's the small things that people, the citizens of Tshwane, also care about. They want a city that's clean. They want to have access to water that's not going to make them sick. They want to have access to electricity. So all of that, when we come back, it's 22 minutes after 10 o'clock. We're in conversation with Dr. Nasiphi Moya, the executive mayor of the City of Tshwane. If you are in Tshwane right now, do you have any issues? Are there updates that you are requiring from the mayor? Or maybe you just want to give her feedback on the work that she's been doing. You can call us on 011-883-0702 or send a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
25 minutes after 10 o'clock, we're in conversation with the mayor of Tshwane, Dr. Nasiphi Moya. We're taking your calls as well on 011-883-0702, WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. Before we go to these calls and WhatsApps, Mayor, let's talk about the state of the city. Is it clean?
It's getting there. It is clean, it's getting there. We still have issues with illegal dumping at certain areas. And these would be the areas, for instance, where the reason for us not to collect is because the residents don't have the bins. So we do have a section of residents who don't want a certain type of bins. They want to stack with the small bins. Others is because the backyard dwellers, we have not dealt with it systematically, that the one household, you give them one bin, but the number of people that stay in a particular house, it's more than that. Informal settlements, we have not formalized or systematically deal with the rubbish that comes out of informal settlements. And because of that, then we've got this issue of illegal dumping that we are now starting to deal with it. And but there are areas that we are targeting just to make sure that, because it's also a sign of lawlessness, when you have people just dumping everywhere. In addition to the spots that I'm talking about of illegal dumping, our CBD has really come a long way. It's very clean. In fact, we are leveling up now, where we start even disinfecting the CBD and starting to talk to informal traders and the taxi, sector to say, listen, we need order in the CBD, for instance. And it's not only the Pretoria CBD, there's work that is happening in other CBDs as well.
What about hijacked and abandoned buildings?
So those ones, we are actually advanced in terms of, one, identifying the ones that belong to the city, assessing their status quo. And what we have said is that at the investment summit, those buildings, we're going to put them out there. What we have started doing is start to get them spade ready. So obviously with these buildings, you can't just take them out to the market without the public giving you consent. So we have a couple of them that are out on public participation to get the public to agree whether we should or not, and they are owned by the city. And so what we have done, the CBD, we then say there are precincts. There's areas in the CBD that should be for student accommodation, because that's our market.
Yeah.
The areas that are ideal for low-cost housing, and because that's another market. But also there are buildings that would be ideal for business, because we on this drive now for economic growth and attracting business to the city. Obviously, we need to make sure that we take advantage of these hijacked buildings. They generate a lot of crime, and it's something that we've been working on since we started as this administration. But that is the work that is ongoing, and I think we're receiving the final report in terms of those buildings, but we continue to identify city hijacked properties. We get to a city property that has been occupied by someone since 2014. City has never gotten rental out of it. They don't pay for water and electricity. So it's not going to be resolved at one go, the extent in which the city property has been hijacked. But particularly in the CBD, I think after this investment summit that we're now looking at September, because there's more properties and assets that we need to put in there. After that, I think if we have capable partners that will take up the opportunity to take these buildings and assets, I think in the City of Tshwane, I know it's a cliche when you say it's under construction. I think that's what we're going for.
Yeah. Spaza shops, you had indicated they must be locally owned. Where are you with that drive? And does that even include for legal foreigners?
So the where we are is that we do have this draft bylaw that's out on public consultation. So it's just a matter of it coming back to council. That provision is in the bylaw. So once that is approved, then we are able to reserve certain sectors for South Africans. And there's a reason behind this. Earlier on, you were talking about unemployment. City of Tshwane, our unemployment rate increased in the last quarter. We were 37.4%. It is now over 38%. And we are saying not everyone is going to be hired by a big corporate. There are people whose economic opportunities are at informal sector and township economy. Hence, we are doing it and just to deal with poverty in the city. But when it comes to foreigners, we are saying foreigners, there are laws that guide investment by foreigners, and that's what will follow on. However, we're saying the informal sector, that must be reserved for South Africans.
All right, let's go straight to your calls now as we continue our conversation with Dr. Nasiphi Moya, the Executive Mayor of the City of Tshwane. Please be sharp and quick because there are many calls on WhatsApp, so I want to give as many people an opportunity. So try raise one issue, please, so we can get other people to get the chance. Helen, let's start with you. You are calling us from Pretoria. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. Morning to the mayor. My issue is the water. Water in Mamelodi, specifically Ikageng. What is happening there? When are we going to get water restored? Because residents there are over 70. They're still pushing wheelbarrows to go get water at certain points. So I just wanted to find out when is that going to be sorted. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Helen. Thank you, Mayor.
So the teams are on the ground. We started a few weeks ago, but we suspended the program when there were maintenance. So the teams are on the ground doing the assessments and working on the designs. What we want to do there is to install a booster pump. Money has been allocated to do so. And what we said, as soon as the consultants are done with the designs, the next thing is then to install it. And when we spoke to the councillor, the installation process, the team said it will take about 6 weeks. So it's just for us to wait for these ones that are busy with the designs to submit their report, and then the issue of Ikageng should be resolved as soon as we install the booster pump.
Are we looking at a couple of months? What's your timelines estimated?
So when we spoke, then it was before we knew there were going to be maintenance, so that actually took us back a bit. So I think I don't want to speculate and say by August, and then August comes, it hasn't happened. But I know that the team, we're just depending on this team to finish with the designs. As soon as they submit their report, then the 6 weeks kicks in.
Okay. Israel, you are in Eersterust. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. Morning, Doctor.
Sure.
Doctor, we have a lot of problems. Service delivery is taking place, but not sufficient. Street lights, the place is dark, the place is dirty. My question is it political because you don't get a lot of votes? The way there's lights on, the lights stay on. As I was driving around here, all the lights is on where there is light. But overall, the bad service delivery, yet we have the lapsing of 3 councillors in Easter. So what is your response, man?
Thank you for that, Israel.
Definitely not political, Israel. I think when we had the Imbizo in Easterus, we did have a discussion about the backlog. Particularly when it comes to public lighting. Issues of cleaning should not be an issue now going forward, because the regional teams should be on the ground. They've got the equipment now to work. So I can assure you it's definitely not political. It's just a matter of the team to scale up the work that they are doing there. But you would have seen that we have brought in the other departments that we discussed at Imbizo. For instance, the issue of title deeds are being resolved. The issue of electricity in those flats are being resolved. So we have not really ignored Easterus.
Vuyisani, you are in Mamelodi. Hi.
Good morning. Hello, Mayor. Well, in essence, I would like to thank her for everything she's doing for Tshwane, specifically Mamelodi. Yeah, so there's a lot of grass cutting. I mean, the rubbish dumps are being cleared almost frequently. And then going back to what the lady said about Ikageng, there's a small problem that we've noticed, like right here on the mountain, there's a big reservoir and there's an illegal settlement right next to that reservoir, and there's a whole lot of illegal connections. Those illegal connections are affecting pressure for Ikageng, Ward 17, and some of the areas around here. So those connections were disconnected sometime last year. They have been reconnected, and in that same ward, I think it's around SNS, it's called Otatluk, the area here in Mamelodi. The councillor also lives there, but he does nothing. So we need help. I think it's called Ward 93.
Ward 93.
So we need help. Ward 93. There's a whole lot of illegal connections from the reservoir, and the councillor lives in that community, but nothing is done about it.
All right, Vuyisani in Mamelodi, thank you.
I think the straight answer is that we must go disconnect again. But we had the teams working with the Rand Water and Water Research Commission, and they confirmed a few weeks ago that there hasn't been further connections. But I mean, this is a moving target when it comes to illegal connections. I think the straight answer, Vuyani, thank you for the compliment, but I think the straight answer is that we must go back. And we've been doing a lot of that in Tshwane, especially with informal settlements and townships where they connect illegally. So for us, it's just to go back and disconnect again.
Okay, Renee in Pretoria West, hi.
Morning, Clement.
So that's Renee then, hey? Not Renee.
Yes, Renee.
Go ahead, Renee.
That's funny.
AKA Renee.
They call me that all the time. Okay, first time caller, and it's my birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to pose to the mayor if the mayor is aware of any development that is happening. I'm calling from Pretoria West, Lotus Garden, on the new development called Capital View. We've got a gravel road here that is unbearable for us as residents, which passes behind our estate. So we spoke to the previous mayor, we were told that the people came, but we were told that there's going to be a development that is going to be done. That was a year ago. They sent us a plan, but even today it hasn't been done. So I just wanted to find out if the mayor knows about it. We are concerned about the dust, as yesterday we were talking about dust pollution. So is the mayor aware of such development that is supposed to happen? Because we've been waiting because it's bad. The dust is bad for us.
All right.
Thank you.
Renee, a.k.a. Renee, thank you for your call, man.
Yeah, just give me a few minutes. I'm going to give him the answer. I'm waiting here. I'm texting the HOD.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to Ayanda in Centurion. Ayanda, hi.
Hi. I think my question is to the mayor. I understand she says things are improving. I'm based in the region Centurion, and simple things such as potholes and street lights take over a year to fix. So I need to understand where are these improvements happening, because they're certainly not happening in Centurion. I mean, we've lost a lot of money just for replacing tires because of potholes. And I know the mayor was in the Reeds a few weeks ago, I think in April, and had Nguzo there. And suddenly we saw trucks there fixing streetlights. But obviously it was only when she was there, and nothing has gone forward in terms of fixing them going up after her visit. So where are these improvements happening? Because us as taxpayers and residents are not seeing them.
Ayanda in Centurion, thank you. What's happening in Centurion?
In Centurion, so there's a lot of work that is happening in that region. Maybe not in her area as yet, but there's a lot of work that is happening. Even the MMC responsible for the region, she posts even the weekly schedules of the work that's happening in Centurion. Issues of potholes, we did have an issue when it was raining a lot, but it's no longer an issue. The teams are on the ground, they're working. Issues of street lights, those ones we have a serious backlog. I mean, we are dealing with a 4-year backlog on street lights, but there is work that is happening on a daily basis. I know, for instance, they were in Ward 48 in Centurion yesterday. So the work is happening, but it has not reached all residents, obviously. And I know in Centurion there's also an issue, for instance, in the area of Rua Vista with the issue of electricity, which we have started working on it. Even in this financial year, we had to move monies around just to make sure we start dealing with the issue of the constant outages there. So there's a lot of work that is happening. It's unfortunate, obviously, that there are residents who have not gotten to get the service, but the schedule that the MMC puts out on a weekly basis shows that the work is happening.
Okay. Let's on the WhatsApp line. I'm about to go to some WhatsApps now, but one message says, "What about Wi-Fi hotspots around the city to support the digital economy?" Is she focusing on that?
Yeah. So during Sputla's time, there was free Wi-Fi. It was cancelled during Soli's time. And what we did a few months ago, we approved to say which of the infrastructure can we still use. And we will activate those that we can still use. We don't have 1 billion to have that project going, but we are looking to use the infrastructure that we have and look for partners, because we understand for our youthful population in the city, we need that service to be reinstated. So we've already started. I think it's just a matter of, announcements. When are we switching on and which areas where we can still use the infrastructure? Most of it is vandalized, stolen. It's like just being left like that, but there is infrastructure that can be salvaged, and that's what we approved 2 months ago.
What's happening with maintenance of infrastructure? Like, does maintenance get budgeted for? Because we often hear complaints about how dilapidated infrastructure is, but then you wonder, but why are there never really concrete plans to maintain the infrastructure?
So 2 things when it comes to infrastructure. One, in the city, it was not protected. I'm talking about physical protection of the infrastructure. The second one is that the investment on repairs and maintenance has been pathetic. I mean, on water, I think we had 1.9% instead of 10%. On electricity, 2-point-something% instead of 10%. And that has been happening over the years. Of course, that compromises the lifespan of the assets that we are dealing with. Hence, we have so many problems with our substations. I mean, we were becoming famous for fires at our substations. And this has been happening for years, by the way. I mean, in Tshwane, we are upgrading at least 3 primary substations that were gutted down by fire. And so what we have started doing is, again, what I said earlier, going back to basics. When it comes to our substations, do we have physical protection? This is what we're putting in place. Do we have fire protection? Do we have repairs and maintenance, a program that is going to support the durability of our assets? So that's what is happening. There hasn't been an intentional, taking care of our assets, especially these essential assets. I don't even want to go into social infrastructure because that one is just sad. When in an area like Jugulane, you have just let sports facilities to be run down, and you think we're not complicit in recruiting young people to crime in that area. So social infrastructure, and I was saying to colleagues, in the next budget, we need to be intentional about the investment that the city makes in social infrastructure. But Clement, the reality in Tshwane is that we don't want to make excuses about why we are in the state that we are in, because it sounds political. But the reality is that if a city hasn't had a funded budget for 4 years, you know what the trade-offs are. That service delivery end up suffering. And it's a matter of, do we pay employees or we maintain, and you say we maintain when necessary. And that's exactly what has happened. But I think with the decisions that we are making and just going back to basics to make sure that the basics work, I think we're going to get there.
When do you think you're going to be able to stabilize the finances in Tshwane? Because you've been talking about reducing the city's debt as you promised. You still, Eskom's debt is at 5.6 billion or so?
I think it's somewhere there, because we've paid over 1.2 now.
So when do you think the city will be somehow stable based on what you're implementing?
So as
stabilizing the finances.
As starters, we have, for the first time since 2021, approved a funded budget. That's the first step. Our creditors book is in control in the sense that with Eskom, remember, we entered a payment agreement until 2029. Even though we will review it, should we see that the finances are improving, then we can pay more. We are now in the last stage of negotiating on the salary backlogs. And so in terms of us meeting our obligations, it should not be a problem. But where we are revamping and really introducing an aggressive culture of payment, because there are areas in Tshwane that we're not paying for services. They've resigned themselves. And we're saying there's no way you can use all these services and not pay for them. Unless you are indigent, then that's a different dispensation. And so we have implemented, for instance, the debt relief scheme to bring more residents into our, into dealing with our debtors book so that they can pay for the services. But I think what is important is that for us to get residents to pay is if they see there's value for money that they pay, they get the service back. Hence, on the side of it's not a financial target, this one is that residents must feel when they pay for rates and taxes, there's something in it for them, and those are services. So we have invested a lot of money in buying equipment, empowering our teams so that the services can go to the people. And I think in the next year, Clement, I think we'll be saying something different in Tshwane.
Yeah.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
7:02.
8 minutes now before 11 o'clock. We are just about to wrap up our conversation with Dr. Nasiphi Moya, who's the executive mayor of the city of Tshwane. Let's go to your WhatsApps on 072 702 on 702.
Good morning, Clems. Susan Kuchana from Stabilising. Clement, I want to ask the mayor about the issue of Soshanguve power cuts and power failures. What's the plan around that? Because they've been having a runaround pertaining to that, and residents of Soshanguve have been up in arms, crying for Ugesi all the way. So what is the problem, and what is the plan to mitigate against the challenges of power cuts and power failures of Soshanguve? Thank you, Clement.
Thank you.
We were struggling with our substation called IA substation. We have upgraded it. We started, I think, December or January, and we finished end of March with the upgrades. The line to DD Soshanguve is stable. The line to BP now is also stable. We are done with the reticulation. The area that is still very much a problem is the Jukulane area, and it's because of the overload, illegal connections that are loading the system. So the upgrades that have started in the Jukulane line as well. And the problem, in all honesty, is the load on the system when it comes to Jukulane, in addition to obviously because of theft and vandalism that has happened in that area. And Jukulane is one of those areas that is even difficult to service, because you need an army for technicians to go in that area. So for us with Soshanguve, the moment we can resolve the Jukulane, which is the last part of this upgrade, Soshanguve should be fine. I know that the gentleman may have heard a lot about DD and BP 2 months ago. No, that's no longer the issue anymore in Soshanguve.
Good morning, Clement. Can you please ask the mayor about the lack of service delivery in the Hermannstad area? There is no bylaw enforcement. Street lights are not working. The main street, Van der Hof Road, has not had its lights in the past 5 years. Thank you. My name is Mr. Maswime. I stay in Hermannstad. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's these calls that there's no excuse then to just go to the team and say, Hermannstad, what's the issue? Why don't you prioritize? I think it's that.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. I can sit here and say, no, there's an excuse why the lights have not been working for 5 years. But it's a matter of us now just getting the teams to work all the areas.
Yeah.
Good morning, Clement, and to the mayor. I just want to thank you and commend you for the wonderful work that you are doing in the city. But I do have a problem. I'm a resident at Montana Manor around Klepan Road near the Vonnerboom Airport. Every time we have bad weather, we always get power outages, and they are such an inconvenience. This has been happening for such a long time, and I would like the mayor to please intervene in this matter, because it's really, really, really an inconvenience to all the residents in Tshwane. I'm Sharon from Montana. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Yeah, so the problem there is that we've got is it called the overlines? That's the problem there, that there's water, it's a wetland, and we try to get approval to get it underground. But that's the problem there. And I mean, we've said to the team, I'm sure there is a solution to that. As Sharon says, it's been happening for years. And it's because it's overlines that especially when it's windy or rainy, then that line is compromised. So for here, we've had numerous discussions with the team to say, please look for something. Underground can't work because it's a wet area, but I'm sure there's a way to protect the line, even if it's an overline.
All right, another one says, Clement, can you ask the mayor, when will she reinstate the employees who were fired in 2023 but were successful at the labor court to be reinstated? It is very difficult for us sitting at home with a court order saying we must return to work, but the city is doing nothing about it. That's a message from Thandi.
I can ask about that group.
Okay.
I don't know which one it is.
All right, so they were fired in 2023. All right.
Is it from the strike?
I suspect so, but Thandi doesn't really say here.
Okay.
So maybe what we'll do, I'll get the producers to just try and speak to Thandi to get the details about whether this was from the strike, I mean, back in 2023, because it's way before your time. And then I'll wrap up with this one from Jay. Says, Clement, I have relatives who live in Tshwane, and they are extremely happy about Dr. Nasiphi Moya's performance. Personally, I like how humble she is, so I wish her all the best. That's a message from Jabusile in Midrand. You've got fans even outside of Tshwane.
Tell him to move to Tshwane. I owe, I think Vuisile. Yes. So basically what needs to happen there is that our teams from Region 3, they must go and close the gravel because of the dust that they were mentioning. Taxis must stop using it. TMPT will help us enforce that. I just need to follow up that it happens.
What's that area again?
So Capital View.
Capital View.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much for that. Mayor, thank you so much for making time to speak to us. I really appreciate it. I will be bothering again to come join us after a couple of months, because I think it's important to have you interface with the people that you serve like that, and they can ask you questions. You can update them as well on your service delivery priorities. So Thank you so much. I wish you all the best, and I hope to see you at the 702 Walk the Talk.
I will be there. I was asking, where's my invite? Or else you'll find me blocking all the roads there if I don't get it. But I need to say, Clement, I want us to get to a point where with the residents, they feel like they can ask about other things other than service delivery. One of the drives that we're on now is on economic growth. But I understand that we're still stuck on these basics and it's difficult to move them. So in a few months' time, I really hope that residents would say at least the services are being taken care of. Now they can engage on other things that affect them. Of course.
I hope that can be the next focus of our conversation when you come back.
No,
all right.
I'm
going to make sure your invite is with you before you even leave this building.
Or else you are blocked.
Or else how are we going to walk there in the city of Tshwane?
No, thank you so much.
It's a minute before 11.